I had something of a revelation earlier. I'm not sure if it was today or if it was last night. For all intents and purposes, my days are not days. It's just kind of an amalgam of hours somehow stitched together. Which is interesting because that's very relatable to what I'm thinking of. You see, I come to this idea, this conclusion, revelation, what have you, that things are becoming more blurred together. No, that sounds negative. The line that is definition has become blurred. But that's not to say that the image is not clear. That my understanding is not clear. Things are becoming more and more intertwined. Like a world without nations. They're all there, the people are still there. But, and of course this is sort of an analogy more than anything else, but this sensation I have, it both interests me and concerns me, because I'm not exactly sure what that's supposed to mean. I don't know if it's supposed to be good or bad. So for the time being, it's simply interesting. It's even hard for me to explain it, which I think is part of the thing. It's trying to identify a concept or an idea. One, I'm tired. I just got off of a 12-hour shift. It's been raining on and off all night. I'm cold. And I've kind of had my sort of food for thought time. In a way, I just want to wind down. But I do know this. Yesterday, when I was walking around, I was looking at the clouds. And I felt like I was close to realizing something about the clouds. Or at the very least, about something that the clouds reminded me of. The thing is it's kind of like a tip of the tongue situation where you really don't know. You know, but you don't have it. It's not there. Obviously, that's frustrating, especially if it's about something that might be important, but you don't even know what it is. So it's like, not only is it tip of the tongue, you don't even know what's on the tip of your tongue. You know, you're trying to name a movie star. At the very least, you know it's a movie star, and it's probably got a gender in your head, and maybe an age, hair color, whatever. A certain movie they may or may not have been, who knows. But those are all known details that are allowing you to arrive to this conclusion, and that's usually what makes the tip of the tongue situation frustrating. This, however, is again both frustrating and interesting because I don't know the details, but I still get that sense that I'm on the verge of something. So it's like a giant risk, I guess. You know, typically with a risk, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You can't. You take a chance, and hopefully it works out in your favor. You know, I'm just going to sidestep that entirely and just speak what's on my mind. I don't know if it's my company or if it's a company that works with my company who also happens to work on site and happens to utilize employees from my company, but that company lost tens of thousands of dollars worth of product because of me. doing my job, trying to look at the situation that occurred in the best interest of, well, I don't even know whose best interest it was. I think it was just looking at the situation and understanding what I was told. People aren't supposed to have this, so ensure that they don't. When somebody does in fact possess this, and because it's such an expensive product, well, that needs to not happen. Okay. That's essentially the gist of it without going into too much detail. So what I did was what I felt was the right thing. First, I sought some information. It just so happened to be that other people that gave me information more or less gave me, they gave me ideas, but I made an informed decision based on that. I had my own hunches, they had information, I basically combined the ideas together. And I felt like I did the right thing. Come to find out, that product is effectively a rejected product that employee was carrying. I thought they were stealing it. And that product can easily sell for $500 or $1,000, depending on the size. Well, I put it on a rack full of other approved products. And those approved products and the rejected product looked identical. I went in initially to try to find the exact same thing. I looked at the photo that I took. There was no identifying information that could allow me to discern it. Now, I had a pretty good idea, but I didn't want to take that risk of saying, well, this is the one, and then it not being the one. So I communicated back to my boss. I have no way of discerning the difference between the product that I've placed into the rack full of other product. She's like, okay, well, we'll have to figure something out. And then they tossed the entire rack. I'm assuming that these specific products, because of their size, are approximately $1,000 a piece. There were at least 20 of them. And they all had to be thrown away. The funny thing is, I don't know exactly why I feel guilty about it. I do, because that's just the nature of it. That is the state of my being regarding that situation. However, I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's just because those are products that people worked hard on to try to get, and now their product is gone. It could be that just because of the number, and because of one simple mistake that, although I don't see as a mistake on my behalf, I don't personally think that I did something wrong. That what I did was really the mistake. That might sound like I'm trying to justify my behavior and that I'm not taking into accountability. Now, I contributed to the loss of this amount of money, this amount of potential income, rather. But I mean, the product is there. It was harvested, it was acquired, and they sell the shit all the damn time. So, for all intents and purposes, yeah, that's money down the drain. And, they have to pay for the facilities and for the people to work and so on and so on and so forth. Blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes. I think, if anything, I'm just upset at the fact that it happened in the first place. And that it all comes down to me choosing to take action. Had I not done anything, even if the item was stolen, they would have lost $1,000 worth of shit. not 20 or 30 or however much it was. Now you might say, oh, well, the end justifies the means, and that's a valid point in this case. Yeah, maybe my behavior was necessary. The one thing that I feel that should have changed, or should change if it comes down to that, is the fact that that section of this plant should have better quality control to allow people to know for a fact, at a glance, that it's a rejected product. Nobody should have to have any kind of previous training to understand, because my boss told me that the best way to do this, after I had learned all the product was lost, is that you should open it up and check it. Well, that's something I would have thought of. I mean, this is a food processing facility for fish. The last thing I'm going to attempt to do is open a product up, or multiple products. I don't know if that's going to compromise the material or not. What happens if, a beard hair falls in, or I accidentally sneeze into the damn product? Well, that's compromised anyway. And I don't know what compromised product or rejected product looks like by comparison. Now, maybe I do if I looked, but again, that's not a thought that's in my head. I think just a giant red sticker that says rejected on it might be good. Might be helpful. Make these things a little easier. If you think about it, if you ever go to an Asian store, especially in LA, I don't know about anywhere else, but it could be that it's practiced across the globe now or something, who knows. But whenever you buy a product, if it's not a product that you would typically bag, or if it's a product that you might immediately start to consume after purchasing, they like to put a sold sticker on it, a sticker that says sold on it, so that if you happen to open up this drink or bag of candy or something, loss prevention can look at that and say, oh, they paid it. They paid for it. Move along, no big deal. One of the reasons why I'm not sure why I should feel guilty about it is the fact that I don't really care about business in general, but maybe I'm starting to, and maybe that's also why. Because if I start caring about business, then maybe I'll start caring about my own. Forward momentum with my own finances. I mean, especially because, and this is something that I've been considering, and I feel that this event has actually helped concrete this idea that I'm done with security. When I'm done here, I'm not doing it anymore. As easy as the job is, I'm just not good at it. I don't typically care about the things that the people want me to care about. And, I mean, hell, trying to actively do the job in the way that I feel that I'm supposed to, events like this can sometimes happen. Now, granted, you could say, well, this is a one-time thing. How bad is your actual experience, etc., etc. I mean, I'm a lazy-ass security guard, and there are plenty of us out there, I'm sure. But also, I think that my time in this field is up. I don't want to care about it. I enjoy the ability to walk around and just sort of talk to myself and problem solve and learn. But at the same time, I think it's part of my past. It's one of those things that needs to change. As I've said before to many people many times, take inventory of your life every now and then, roughly every 6 months. Look at what needs to change. Look at what needs to stay the same. I think this needs to change. If it doesn't, then I don't think I'm doing myself a service. I think I may have gotten everything out of security that I needed, and that I need to move forward and improve my career path, if you will. What that entails, I don't know. And maybe that's what the revelation is that I'm thinking of. Maybe it's just that once it's all done and I start setting things in motion, it'll become more clear. And that's the risk that I have to take. And that can be hard. It's very hard to take risks. Especially for me. I don't know about everybody else, but definitely for me. I want a better life. And a better life for me includes doing things that I want to do, are fun for me to do, and I guess as a byproduct of that, I enjoy doing. This is not a job I enjoy doing. And, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but when I first got here, I felt like something was out of place. Something was off. Didn't feel right. Come to find out through thinking, you'd be surprised how much thinking you can get accomplished while working as a security guard, that this place epitomizes stagnation. Sure, I'm sitting here with my computer and I'm talking to the microphone, that's great. But they are sadly taking a back seat, and I had hoped to be able to put more effort into it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not really scared though. I used to be. I guess if anything, it doesn't make me confident. I think I'm confident that I can do this. It's more along the lines of, it makes me think in a different way. Which is interesting now that I think about it. My thinking is changing. How I'm thinking, what I'm thinking about. I'm still thinking. I'm still permitting myself to challenge myself with thought. It's like changing from Sudoku to crossword puzzles. Not to say that either one is easier than the other, but just simply that you're playing a different game. And in this case, I think I'm playing a different game. I'm playing a different thinking game, and maybe I'm done thinking the other way. Now I gotta think a different kind of way. It just so happens that this kind of new thinking is a bit more strategic, I suppose, and not so much tactical, where I've got to look ahead. I've got to be proactive, less reactive, which is very different for me. I'm not typically a proactive person. But as long as this whole summer goes over well, I don't quit or lose my job in any capacity. When I'm done here, I should have a sufficient amount of funds to be able to pad my savings account for an entire year's worth of rent, which, $300 a month, not a whole lot, but that ends up being $3,600. Be able to pay off my buddy who loaned me that money, because that's a super awesome thing to do. I still have at least one, maybe 1.5 semesters worth of financial aid available to me in Pell Grants. But I know that starting in the spring, I gotta change something. Or something has to have changed sufficiently enough for me that by the time that semester is over with, I gotta be doing something different. I have to be. It's a choice I made that I no longer have a choice about. I've put my foot down. It's how it's gonna be. It's got to work one way or another. What am I going to find out in the process? I don't know. But again, I'm actually surprised that I'm not scared. Years ago, I told myself, stop being afraid. It only worked a little bit, but mostly just for the overall scheme of things. I feel like I need to say some more. I feel like I have to continue this. I don't really want to stop recording at the moment. I feel the need to persist, even if I'm not really saying anything valuable right now. Because who knows, I might say something valuable in the process. I just find it fascinating that I'm not really scared. I don't know if I'm happy. I think happiness is one of those things where you can be happy as an overall thing if on a regular basis you experience those fleeting moments of what we understand happiness to be, and you, I wouldn't say fixate on them, but at the very least you appreciate them and you hold them dear. That makes sense to be somebody who's happy. Not only are you experiencing positive things, but you're reflecting on them. You know, that whole stop to smell the roses idea. And if you appreciate the roses, you may go home and cultivate your own. And perhaps that's what I'm trying to accomplish. You know, for years now, I've realized I don't know how many years, maybe 1, 2, something like that. I have been actively attempting to improve my life. But mostly myself. Because the life improvement just kind of comes with it. Self-improvement is very important. There will be people that'll tell me, you, or anybody else that you're not the most important person in the world and that other people are more important and that you should take care of them. And that's how I used to think. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that's a bad way of thinking. I just think it's a bad way to discourage people from improving their own lives. I've realized that I'm nicer to people now, nicer to myself. I'm still contrarian as fuck. Don't get me wrong, I will still challenge your ass. I will tell you what is likely to be wrong about something based on, you know, many articles I've read or experiences, etc. But, and you know, I try not to be too objectively flat and say you're wrong kind of thing. But I am trying to be actively educational to counter fallacious ideals or mostly information. If it's if you want to believe in something, it's one thing, but I'd like to at least give you the information that might be the opposite. There's some things you can't prove. There's other things there's a lot of data out there for. But I'm also starting to learn to pick my battles. I am, in fact, growing as a person. And I think it's a good thing. I guess I'll just go now. Why not? So, yeah. I don't know what else to say. So, I'll just say nothing else.